Let's take a look at crypto prices this morning. As you can see, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP are all lower right now. As you can see, Bitcoin, 87,000 and change. The House's Clarity Act stablecoin legislation remains held up in the Senate right now. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong and other crypto leaders opposed the latest draft, delaying the vote over stablecoin rewards and regulatory oversight. Armstrong staying optimistic on the path forward. Maria spoke with him about it on this program earlier this month. Watch.
The Senate's been doing incredible work. I'm still quite optimistic that this bill is going to get done in a very bipartisan and strong way. However, the draft text we did see on Monday night this week, with just 24 hours to review it, we started to look through and noticed there was a few items in there that caused us concern.
I want to talk about the sticking point that you've been raising for a while now, and that is whether platforms are able or should have the ability to pay rewards on or interest on stablecoin.
The banks had their own concerns, and we reached a good outcome in the Genius Act. And now the banks really are coming and trying to undermine the president's crypto agenda. I mean, these are the same banks that debanked him and his family, right? And they want to come in and say that Americans should not be able to actually earn more money on their money. Our view is that there should be a level playing field where banks and crypto companies can lean into stablecoin legislation as an opportunity, and that includes paying rewards to Americans so that they can earn more money on their money.
Joining me now is Kraken Co-CEO and member of the CFTC's CEO Innovation Council, Arjun Sethi. Arjun, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. You have supported the bill in the past. You're going to be on Capitol Hill when the Senate Agriculture Committee takes up this new draft. Now, what does this mean for the future of crypto legislation? One of the things that Brian Armstrong's point was when he opposed the Clarity Act was the CFTC's reduced role, more power to the SEC. Where do you sit on all of this?
Look, I think what's most important here is what does this mean for folks that want to have access to their own capital? So we use a lot of words like, crypto custody, self-custodial. We talk about rewards. But what it really means is the ability for someone, as an American here in the United States, that gets access to capital. So if you're a small to medium business, you want to be able to get a loan. You want to be able to have access to be able to get more types of financial products to be able to grow. So if you're an individual, if you're a small and medium business, you want to have access to that capital. So we talk about these words, DeFi, centralized exchanges, crypto rails, et cetera. What we're really talking about is outside the United States, this innovation is already happening, and we've been behind the ball, but we've moved forward very quickly with some of the President Trump's initiatives over the last year. So we have the ability to leapfrog here. So cryptocurrency, what we're talking about is the rails, the liquidity, and again, these words can become confusing, but it's access to capital for the tens of millions, in cases, hundreds of millions of people that want access to a better yield on their own dollars or their assets, and that's really what it's come down to.
No, and Maria's done several interviews on this, and this is, whether you hear from Eric Trump or you hear from others, they talk about that we don't want to get left behind. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest point. And Senator Gillibrand has said that she is optimistic that we're going to get to a finish line on this legislation. So we'll be watching you on Capitol Hill. Now, Kraken reportedly moving closer to the public markets, confidentially filing for an IPO late last year. They reached a $20 billion valuation. They also expanded beyond crypto trading, new acquisitions, institutional partnerships, multiple potential paths into the public markets. I mean, what are you thinking about the timing and the structure of a potential IPO here?
Look, we've been a private company, and we've had the ability to control our own destiny by being profitable since day one, and we're really excited about that. I think what's more important is how do we continue the mission of what we wanted to be able to do, which is bring crypto to the masses all over the world. And I think taking a step back, in order to achieve that mission, which is actually very in line with how you think about American values, American property rights, the Bill of Rights. And again, when we say these, we're not being political. It's more about how do you ensue what we here have the privilege of doing as companies serving American customers with their own capital. How do we proliferate those values, those property rights outside the United States as well? And so part of Kraken's mission has been to do that, not just here in the United States, but also outside the United States, which is about 60+% of our business today. And so going back to the market structure bill, market structure for us has always been about ensuing those values here at home and abroad, especially against foreign adversarial countries or exchanges that are supported by something that is not within our value set. So the yield, DeFi, being able to protect issuers, this is all on behalf of making sure America's first, but also American companies can compete on a level playing field, which is why this conversation has become so important.
Absolutely, and why the Clarity Act is so important in general. I want to bring in Chris McMahon. He's on set, because Chris, you make the point. We've already had a conversation this morning about a potential government shutdown that could really backlog the IPO market again.
Yeah, that's a real problem for us. This should be a record for all IPOs across the board. And you think about it, Stripe, SpaceX, and the crypto companies as well. This should be a record year for IPOs. But if we see a prolonged government shutdown, especially a battle, there's still a path for going public, but it is a very, very narrow path. It is just it'll gum up the works in terms of the market recovery and in terms of the market growth this year, And I think ultimately we got to make sure they don't politicize this thing too much. This particular battle, the SEC and CITC, that's a governance issue we got to get past, and I think we will.
Arjun, do you have plans in place for this? I mean, is this kind of is something on your radar right now?
Look, I'm also an investor in SpaceX, in OpenAI, and a bunch of these companies. The right way to think about it is when the markets are open and they're ripe, and we've got market structure and rule of law and stability on both sides of the house as well, everyone looks to America for that type of stability. So the plan really is, how do we get closer there, and how do you make sure that the companies have the ability to be able to compete at a global level? That's really what it's sort of at the mark. So the ability to go public is more about, again, getting access to capital, but more importantly, everyday Americans having access to that innovation and that growth as these companies think about what's next in their stage.
Real quick before you go, we are seeing this pullback in crypto. I showed the boards at the beginning of this segment. Bitcoin's down more than 20% over the past 3 months. What's your outlook here?
Look, there's crypto assets and there's crypto rails. In terms of crypto rails, that's continuing to grow and proliferate. So if you look at USD or dollarization circulation, that's happening at a faster and faster pace. That's great. In terms of the assets that are either digital commodities or equities, et cetera, you see some oscillation back and forth, and they're highly correlated with even tech and tech innovation. So if you see a pullback in any of the crypto assets, BTC, ETH, or the altcoins that are related to AI, it's very similar to the pullbacks that you see in the public markets that are tech-oriented.
Arjun Sethi, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We're going to be watching what happens on Capitol Hill. You will be there. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.